and welcome back to another episode of Leader Talk session with Nasscom Insights. Today's session is on a very vital but an equally humbling topic about worker safety. According to International Labour Organization in 2023, about 395 million workers had one or more incident around non-fatal workplace accident or health condition. So that's a telling number for us, an important topic of discussion today. For this today, I have a very eminent leader and expert in the area of worker safety, Mr. Praveen Arora, Vice President of Internet of Things Business Unit at Tata Communications. Praveen brings about 25 plus years of experience, very rich and deep experience in product engineering, product R&D, product lifecycle management, and particularly around digital engineering and design in the automotive sector and across other sectors. Prior to Tata Communications, Praveen has also worked as an advisor within Accenture's Industry X.0 and Digital Twins Strategy Unit. Praveen, it's a privilege to have you with us in our Noida office today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Namita. Glad to meet you today and part of this session.
Wonderful. Praveen, before we begin with the topic, you have had a fantastic journey in this space. Would love to start with understanding your journey. How has it shaped over the years? What has brought you into the current role that you are in?
Yeah, surely. Thanks for a quick intro there. I started in 97 from in those days in automotive sector and services sector as well. So the primary focus had been on digital and automation that time, and then as the Industry X.0, the terminologies came in and everything got shifted towards more sensorization, digitalization and automation merging together, including right from conceptualization of product to product design, manufacturing and after sales, and how you take it back as a feedback loop into the cycle. It's been a privilege to work work with clients across 15 countries, ranging from CPG to automotive, aerospace, shipbuilding and resources and mining. And it's been a privilege to be part of this session today with you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I know at Tata Communications, you're very, very actively involved in the idea of hyperconnected ecosystems, putting communications and connectedness at the center of everything, whether it's customers, whether it's infrastructure, even within the workplace. Talk to us a little bit about how that is changing the contours of worker safety. How much emphatic does worker safety in today's environment become?
Absolutely. From a Tata Communications perspective, we are focusing, our focus is primarily around two things: people first and planet first. And that's where, with the philosophy of giving back to the society and what's best, people form the key for any particular activity that we do. And the safety becomes paramount, because if my workers or if the workers and the people of my clients are safe, there is always a aspect of that whatever they're desiring has its own output met as per their own company objectives and missions. From a people perspective, we have been focusing on connected worker solutions. Plus there are solutions which are catering to all the information between human to machine, machine to machine interfaces, and all this ecosystem is tied together, as you rightly said, in a hyper-connected world. We have something called an IoT fabric. It is one of our core 4 pillars of the 4 fabrics that we have, which is the network fabric, interaction fabric, cloud fabric, and the IoT fabric. In a hyper-connected ecosystem, there are various threads of information that flows across the organization, which is in the form of the information flowing from existing systems, IT network, OT network, the devices, the sensors, the people, the real-time location systems. So all this information is clubbed together in the form of a fabric, IoT fabric. Our focus has been primarily in this case on safety first. Safety, security and sustainability. So those are the use cases we are focusing in the IoT side of it.
Fantastic to know that And I think you very rightly captured people first and planet first approach. Um, we know that there are a lot of regulations also, and regulations help in building the right kind of norms, standards, and guardrails when it comes to occupational safety and health. Uh, where do you see the current regulatory environment in India in either facilitating it, or do you see the need for Indian regulations to actually shape up more? Uh, Keeping in mind that we are in a fast-changing technology world, AI, IoT, and the convergence itself is evolving very quickly. How do we need to be very well prepared?
India has been also been evolving in the regulatory space. So if we see on OSH regulations, there are recent regulations which have also been formed in 2020 OSH code as well. The various the technological advancements that have been made. So the OSH is also trying to integrate a lot of these technology also into the regulatory framework, so that at least the safety aspect of the people is also taken care of. If we look at the Indian regulation, the Ministry of Labour and Employment is working on stricter enforcement of these as well, because one is the regulation also, and then is the enforcement. And a lot of these, when we look at the countries like which are developed and which have far more manufacturing focus in the last few decades, they have adopted to more comprehensive worker safety regulations. They have actually deployed, they have ensured that the workers are safe in that environment, and they've used various forms of technology available there. And so are the things now getting into the market like in India, which are now having more manufacturing focus as well. So as we grow into more manufacturing focus, there is also a regulatory push in India like the Working Conditions Code 2020, which aims to standardize safety laws across industries. But however, the challenges in enforcement and compliance are still the key, because a lot of sectors in these manufacturing sectors, the small industry, the small time players, the contracted workers, or the in certain cases it's very difficult to implement these. So we are bringing that into an easy, simple format, so that the bottoms up, the digital enablement of safety takes place for these companies as well.
That's a great point of view, and I think you touched upon something very important that the organizations are doing is to ensure that these norms are easy to adopt. Just flipping this and talking about how workers endorse and adopt such technologies. Sometimes there could be a sense of invasion of privacy. How are organizations making sure that today's technologies, particularly AI and IoT, while they help track better, monitor better, they also help safeguard the data that is collected, maintain the identity privacy of the workers, and keep a lot of safeguards around data, be more responsible and ethical, if I may say. How are those things shaping?
Yeah, so it's the convergence of the AI and IoT, as you had mentioned. A lot of data which is being used across, be it a device based, be it an application or a platform based, coming from geolocations, which is the layers of secondary data that's coming from the various enterprise systems. All these becomes the source of information tied to, say, either a worker or an employee or to a particular situation. So what we do is say, suppose delinking the whole of the technology with the worker, because then there is always a mapping with a code. So what is done, there's always a numeric mapping that is done, which actually protects the data from the workers to knowing their personal information, which is very important from a GDPR standpoint. So all these information which is limited is only limited as an access within the plant or within the enterprises. So just an example, say a worker carrying a wearable of say in the form of a watch or a helmet or a card, when they exit the premises or when they exit the enterprise, that data is no longer accessible in any form. The device itself disconnects from the system itself. So that's why there is a very clear cut linkage from a device or from a system to the organization system. So how the system, the ecosystem works is it disconnects from as the worker moves out. But within the environment, it's about right from starting from his or her entry into the worker premises in the working in the organization. The safety is paramount. It ensures right from the moment he enters, it gets triggered, and the entire the entire data which flows across various systems, be it a geolocation data, be it a personal health data, which is, say, a lot of these now the devices and solutions take care of measurement of the pulse, heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, and all that. So that becomes very individual data. So that needs to be protected within the organization. So that is now in-house within the organization premises itself and in a separate environment. And especially all these are heavily encrypted and a special mapping done so that nobody is able to even decipher it once even accidentally leads to any data access. But yes, once you want to do a quick analytics, there's a numerical based analytics that can be performed. So that situations the data can be linked and can be showcased in case of any historical movement of the data that's required. The AI is playing now a significant role in this entire thing. The AI part in the IoT plays a role of, number one, of interlinking various events. So suppose in a safety environment, so I can even look at predicting certain movements that have happened in the past which can lead to an incident. My models can work in that scenario to bring in a particular output that the person is going to get into hazardous situation. So that's the power of AI which is getting into it. And more this data becomes a lot of intertwined and interconnected data, and which is also sometimes a self-learning and which helps improvise the entire system itself in terms of a connected worker. And that's why I call it a holistic connected worker solution, because traditionally the connected worker solution has been more application oriented. Now it's a real-time oriented from a bottoms-up standard from each and every worker.
Fantastic. Fascinating to know how across the stack there is interconnectedness that is getting built in, right from the point of data collection to feeding it into the AI models to actually making them work to prevent a lot of these things. And I'm sure there's a lot of forward-looking use cases in terms of even prescribing the entire job floor or the factory floor layouts, how to change that to make it very safe from the design first principles. But we do hear about events happening, and some of them very, very tragic events. Where do you think the gaps exist today in adoption? Is this more of a cultural change, a mindset change, and across the board organizational communication that needs to happen so that workers and employees realize that this is for their benefit? The organizations are able to actually get a lot of that sort of mindful awareness from the workers to utilize these technologies. So where do you think we need to work more?
Okay. So there are three types of gaps which are there. One is the understanding or awareness that the solutions exist. The second is on the adoption of the solutions. The third is analyzing the data and making it work for that process. So there are three things which needs to be looked in tandem by any C-suite or an executive. Because knowing the technology, I have seen the reports sometimes when it goes, signing of a risk or a compliance to a safety. Sometimes I've seen literally seeing the board members' hands shivering when signing, because they ask where is the data coming from. If they don't exist, it's a manual cycle. It becomes very difficult to know actually how the data is rolling up. Now getting to the scenario where the data comes from right from the individual workers, depending upon how his condition has been in various works and scenarios, where he or she has been, what has been his entire journey in the plant, how many incidents or safety hazardous incidents or which would have occurred during that time or could have been prevented, those gets rolled up digitally. The second part is adoption, is because once this technology is known, how it gets into adoption by each and every worker or an employee within the organization, that forms one of the key things. And then how to utilize the data, because once the workers start having a sort of a worker safety solutions, which is in the form of various factors form factors and the various type of devices which are there. They also, the data when it gets rolled up, so it's about utilizing that into creating a meaningful insight into the safety incidents and preventions, how it can be done. Because one is a scenario where it can be a post factor, where incident has happened. From a traditional way, it definitely helps because the response time which is there to reach at that site, it said the first 5 minutes are crucial to save lives during an accident. So a quick response that reaches becomes very crucial from that first standpoint. The second part of that is using that insight into how that incident has happened because of certain preconditions. So how those preconditions are being monitored so that the subsequent incident doesn't take place. And that's the role of the AI which I was mentioning, and that's the use of the technology, how they bring in to improvise the solution. So all three becomes very important, and that's where the solution has to be looked in totality, not just a point technology solution in that case. And that's where the beauty of this solution lies, which is helping transform the way the safety is being looked at.
Fantastic, and thank you for sharing that detailed, view about how all technologies are converging, and the solution needs to be seen in totality. I know Tata Com is at the forefront of this. You have something called a Safe Pass 3.0. There is a zero harm strategy, which is very, very clearly laid out. Would be very interesting to understand, maybe one or two use cases that you have seen scaled and impacting lives. It's almost also like a psychological impact when families and communities know that their members who are at work are safe and they're going to be back home safe. So talk to us a little bit about the kind of impact you see.
Definitely. I'll give you some 2 or 3 examples that can correlate to that. In fact, we have scaled across multiple industries, right from resources, mining to steel, to pharma, oil and gas. And that's been the journey because a lot of these industries deploy significant workforce. And the workforce are also, a lot of them are contractual in nature also, which means they keep on changing. And it's very difficult to then keep a track on how you're training and improvising, and then how you're ensuring the safety is met, because the organization goals are always zero harm. And that's what we focus on, zero harm in our cases, where a lot of these examples that I've been bringing out in use of technology, how the data gets flowed from bottom up. The one of the significant ways I'd seen that in a practical way the adoption had been at scale is across multiple sectors, either in resources, steel, or oil and gas sector, where in one fine day I was just visiting that, and then a lady comes and are you from the Tata Group, and it showed some Safe Pass which you just referred, and that rings bell to me because this helps keep my husband safe when he's at work. So I am happy at home and comfortable. I know my husband is safe when he's going to work. I mean, it was literally raising goosebumps, and it gave me like, oh my God, I mean, this is what is happening. And then I said, it's this technology which has evolved, and they feel very comfortable. And similarly, if you take some of these examples, like a lot of these incidents have been prevented. Like in one of these steel industries, we have prevented about 45 plus incidents, of which have been near fatal incidents could have happened. Like another industry where is the resources and mining industry, we have saved around 3 to 5 different incidents of types, not counting innumerable incidents which could have been in form of a hazardous zone or accident zone entry, and that have been prevented because those are something we are able to foresee and guide the workers, because all these systems give an advance warning, then you're entering into hazardous area. So it goes to the supervisor, it goes to the manager, it goes to the response team, and goes to the individual himself or herself, so that they are aware of the situation, that they are surpassing certain safety limits. And if you take it across usage in certain hazardous chemical industrial area environment, so there the incidence of prevention, especially when into getting into a more hazardous gaseous environments or environments which are not safe right now, which keeps actually some operation is going on, one needs to be away. All those have actually prevented in saving lives or preventing some hazardous incidents in those cases. There have been a lot many examples that we go through, not just of safety. A lot of cases even we have resolved in certain thefts would have taken certain thefts that taken place, and they were able to recover because from that exact device I could know where the person has moved and which location. So in that point of time, we could determine that okay, this person was present during the time of the duration of the theft mentioned, and we recovered everything. This is another example or a byproduct of that. It's not just about then safety. From an organization standpoint, if you look beyond safety, there's a additional benefits that people, the organizations should draw out of is that we know the exact productive count. Say suppose a worker has to be present in a particular work area for X many hours. Is he really operating in that area for X many hours? So this has actually improved 15 to 20% of productivity because it's a simple byproduct. I mean, this is something which is more significant in value from if you look from a COO or operations head's plant head's perspective, because he or she is able to determine the exact productive hours of that particular individual. So the solution, as though we have foreseen from a safety standpoint, but it has got multiple use cases to solve, and that's how the beauty of the solution lies. I mean, from a families who feel secured to a chief operating officer who feels productive environment getting benefited beyond the safety as well. So it is really, I mean, sometimes I feel it's really touched lives of multiple people in a positive way.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for sharing examples, because obviously there are multiple areas where this technology can help. Um, uh, there's always something when we design technology. Lately we say everything has to be very ethical, responsible. Even here, when for those who are designing these technologies, these solutions, what would your advice be? What are some of the factors to keep in mind? Because, as you rightly mentioned, you're dealing with a lot of personal data. My presence somewhere, the kind of signatures that a person in a particular location is generating. All of those can be very personal and can be used either ways. What would your advice be to all those who are designing these solutions?
I think it's a very apt question because as we see, it's not just about the sensor data. It's all about safety now is also covering a lot through video analytics as well. So it's both sensor data, the vision data, the basically your entire the facial recognition also comes into play. So the entire data becomes very, very sensitive from a standpoint that it holds a personal information or individual's personal records, be it a health parameter that you are able to link. So as we develop these technologies, and a message to all the young minds who are focusing on a new innovative solutions across this and making it more and more user friendly, is to think from a holistic data standpoint, is that being ethical, the way the data is being used, stored, discarded as well after a period of time, because holding sensitive data beyond a particular time raises many challenges. And then always ensuring that there's always a delinking from accidental exposure as well. So if it's not mapped to a master, a file of a number or an employee or an individual, then it can't be linked to an individual directly. So to de-link that completely from the way the records are being kept as well. So the accidental, any access to those prevents any personal information leakage. The another aspect in the personal records is the way the information you collect is only that's only crucial for your operations. Like in a lone worker, say a worker who's working in a remote area, if nobody is supporting there, his health parameter is important, you record. But in other cases, you just need to ensure that there's a fall or aim mobility or a heart rate changing. So limited number of data. So that's the model flexibility to take care of the way you're collecting personal information is right up to what you need rather than just collecting the maximum amount of data. Like an example, like we collect in any day, you will have millions of data points collected from any one particular scenario of operations on a safety or a connected worker. uh, do we need all of that? No, because then that data gets big data converts into a more meaningful data through the various AI models into more productive, meaningful insight, and the rest of the data can be discarded in that case. So those are some of the things that continuously evolve, and the way it is in the industry, taking care of all the requirements of safety of the data as well, because the data belongs to the individual in that case, because it's his or her personal record.
Fantastic ideas and tips for all those who are designing. Thank you so much, Praveen, for sharing all your insights. I learned a lot about not just worker safety, but the idea of people-centric, planet-centric, very responsible technology usage that Tata Communications is forwarding through some of its connected worker solution, worker safety solutions, but the overall idea of thinking about people at the center of technology, at the heart of technology, and making good business strategy out of that. Thank you so much for coming and sharing these ideas with us. Wonderful talking to you today, and viewers, look forward to the next Lead Talk with Nasscom Insights. Till then, take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.